So hi, welcome everyone once again. Here we are to celebrate I will say the finish, the ends, but it's actually the very beginning of the summer peak reading, which is A House in the Cerulean Sea. And I am very happy to have a special guest, Mr. T. Klune, today. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. A special thanks to everyone who decided to dress up and making a very fun outfit for the occasion. Um, so I have like this strange file from the Department of
I
yeah,
love it.
it's
I
the like
love
home.
it.
So I am going to be reading something about it because I solemnly swear this file says the truth.
Go ahead.
Critically acclaimed best-selling American writer and
Oh boy.
LGBTIQ plus activist, an avid reader, and for the very first time, I believe, in Mexico, Mr. TJ Klune. I was told that Mr. TJ Klune started writing since he was around 8 years old or something. And a few authors that inspire his storytelling are Stephen King and Terry Pratchett, but also I know that Miss Diana Wynne Jones and I think most of them. I have heard about it. From poetry to fantasy, he is very committed to portray queerness as a well and positive representation, a very accurate one, specifically asexuality and neurodiversity in books. Winner of the 2014 Lambda Award for his novel Into This River I Drown. He's the mind behind several books that most of you may love, such as the Green Creek series, The Extraordinaries, now The House in the Cerulean Sea, also Under the Whispering Door, and the most recent release, In the Lives of Puppets, which is now available. And you can also find Wolf Song available in Spanish language as La Canción del Lobo. Apart from the sagas, these are the standalones, such as this case. And so I think that will be all from this report. I received it. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so
That
much
was a
for being
very good summation of my life. Yes, that was pretty darn accurate. So I appreciate that immensely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. TA. So prior to starting with the discussion of the book, I would very much like to start with maybe a little behind the scenes of how was the writing process. Would you tell us a little bit about how was creating the House in the Cerulean Sea, or maybe your inspiration during the process, the objective you had, whatever you
Yeah,
want to say.
absolutely. So this book, I knew that I'd been wanting to do something with magical children for a long time, that they would experience some form of bigotry because of that, and that there would be a greater conversation about how that would affect bigotry to the adults as well that live in this community. But I wanted the focus to be on the children. But I couldn't quite figure out a way to make it differentiate it from books that had come before. Specifically, you have to think of books like Harry Potter, which unfortunately, however we feel about the author today, was part of the zeitgeist for a very long time. And I read those books. I've seen the movies, and I in no way support that author in any way, shape, or form at this point. And that's the whole point with that is it's just unfortunate that something that can mean so much to so many people be taken away because the author became that which they fought against. They basically became the villain, and I just don't understand that. But anyways, so I couldn't find a way to differentiate it because I didn't want it to necessarily be a magical school. I didn't want to go that direction because it wasn't necessarily about schooling, and there wouldn't be a year after year after year book kind of thing. So I kind of shelved it for a little bit until I started hearing from a very specific character, and that character's name is Lucy. Now, Lucy, as you probably know from reading this book, is the Antichrist. And I thought, oh, okay, if I start with something like Lucy, that is a very big difference between what I want to do versus what had come before. So I knew going into it that Lucy was not going to be the main character, that there would be another character that would be the main one, but Lucy is the reason that this book exists at all, because he started talking to me. That's how it happens for me. When I start hearing a character talk to me, if they are persistent, if they get louder and louder, that's how I know there's a story there and I should probably listen. So I did, and it kind of grew from there. And I with Lucy being the first voice I heard, I gave Lucy perhaps a bit of a bigger role than some of the other children, just because I'm very fascinated by the idea in psychology of nature versus nurture. What does it look like if a person or a being like the Antichrist, who per the Bible is supposed to bring about all the end of days and destruction of humanity, what if a person like that was raised by a person like Arthur Parnassus? What would that look like? Would he have to give in to his nature, or could he be nurtured to be whoever he wants to be rather than what he's supposed to be? And so I built that kind of relationship and then built around them and added in all the other parts and bits of the relationships and the characters. And I will say, because I'm sure this question is going to come up, but I will say that out of all the characters in this book, my absolute favorite and my heart and soul belongs to Chauncey. I love Chauncey more than anything in the world because he is my blobby sunshine boy who knows what he wants to do, knows what he wants to be, knows how he looks and how some people might react to that, but doesn't let him stop himself from going out into the world to do what he wants to do. And that is based upon what we're all like as kids. Remember when you were a kid, and so you guys are probably can remember a lot better than I could, but remember when you were a kid and you found something that fascinated you, something that really interested you, something that you loved, you want to learn all about it. You want to learn everything you can. It becomes an obsession. And for people like me, I have ADHD. So my obsession goes a little bit further because that becomes my entire personality. That absolute, like, for example, when the movie Jurassic Park came out, I got to see that in the theaters the weekend it came out in the United States. And from that day forward, for like the next year, I was the kid who loved dinosaurs. I was all about dinosaurs. I collected dinosaur fossils that I could get at like trade shows. I read dinosaur books and I did all of that. And quite frankly, it was very, very annoying. It was very irritating for everybody around me because all I wanted to do was talk about dinosaur facts. But that's why Chauncey is how he is, because I wanted everybody to think about how they were a kid and when they found something they loved. And for him, it just happens to be being a bellhop in a hotel. So that's pretty much the genesis of the story. And it grew from there because I wanted to explore the idea of what bigotry looks like. But I did not want to come from a place of homophobia. Why? Homophobia is boring. People who are homophobic are boring. They don't deserve my time. They do not deserve your time. And to even write about homophobia is boring. So I didn't want to do that. I never want my queer characters to have to worry about people coming after them for their sexuality, ever, ever. That's not something I care about writing about. There's authors who do and who are very good at it. And that's amazing. It's just not something I want to do. I want to explore what it means to be queer for the rest of the stuff that we are, because we are not just queer. That's part of us. That's part of who we are. So that's what I wanted to do with this world. I wanted to explore the bigotry of what it looks like when an entire population hates a marginalized community, because we know what that's like. We know what that feels like. I know what that feels like. So I wanted to put it on a grander scale and make it a human story about inhuman people. And that's what I did. And oh yeah, there's a little dash of romance in there because I think that Arthur Parnassus is probably, I won't even say it, the hottest character I've written. He's like, I mean, I would marry him. I would marry him like right now. It's totally fine. So yes, that is what this book is about, and that's how it came to be.
I really liked to know that we interpreted the book in the right way, because you mentioned something that's very powerful. It's about basically finding your purpose in life and finding who you are, finding who you love, what you love doing, and also your family, your safe space. Is that the word? Safe zone.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it was a beautiful tale, and it touched the hearts in a very remarkable way, I will say.
Well, thank you. And I also want to add one other thing to that too. That you spoke very wonderfully, and that was very, very beautiful to say. Thank you. But I also want to add that it's also about lifting your voice for those who might not be heard, but also knowing when to take a step back and let the actual people from the community speak. I think what you found with Linus early on in the book was that he's well-intentioned, but sometimes he puts his foot in his mouth. That's just what he does. And he learns, and as he grows, he learns that not only does he need to speak for the people who aren't being heard, but he also has to listen, and he also has to let them speak and shut his mouth. Because sometimes the best thing we can do to be allies is to shut up and let people talk about what's going on. So thank you for that. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much for spreading love and spreading this kind message. It's very powerful and very touching.
Thank you.
So now, in order for us to continue and take advantage of the time we have, it's perfect timing for the Q&A part. So prepare your questions. Everyone who is now coming and joining, you can raise your hand so we can make the line, and we are going to do that in order. Welcome, by the way. Welcome, Mayra, and welcome, Albo. And also an important highlight is that you can also talk about other books such as Wolf Song or Under the Whispering Door. Every question you have, basically. You don't
Yeah,
need
I've written over 30 books, man. So if you have questions, you can let me know, because trust me, I am now 41 years old. My first book came out when I was what, 28. So I've been around the block for a time or 10. So I know that there's not just one book that some people would ask questions about, and that's totally okay. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can start with The House in the Cerulean Sea or any other book you prefer. And also, as I mentioned before, if anyone needs help with the translation, we can do something about it. In order to start with the line, I believe we have Sherlyn. You may introduce yourself as your character or your full name.
Hola,
Hi. I can't hear.
eh, quisiera decir primero que nada que es un honor tenerte aquí, es un placer tenerte aquí con nosotros. Yo elegí a Sol y tuve la oportunidad de leer los dos libros, La casa en el mar más azul y Bajo la puerta de los susurros. Y de verdad que ambas historias fueron un abrazo al corazón en todas las palabras.
I am going to be translating this part. She is thanking you for the writing, for everything that you've done. She had the chance to read both Under the Whispering Door and The House in the Cerulean Sea. And also she mentioned her outfit, it's inspired by Zoe Chapelwhite. So a forestry. And yeah, your question, tu pregunta. ¿No?
Solo era para agradecerte por tus palabras. Nuevamente lo repito, fueron un abrazo en el corazón en todos los sentidos de la palabra. Muchísimas gracias por crear estas historias tan hermosas y muchísimas gracias por estar aquí.
she's telling you that she's thanking you basically for coming here, for your work, for the way you put down in words everything and the passion you write about books. It's not the proper translation, but it's a
Well,
recap.
that is very, thank you for doing the translation. And if you need to translate back what I'm going to say, I'll try to keep it short. But thank you so much for your kind words. You guys are the reason I get to do what I do. So I owe you the world. So I appreciate anybody who takes the time to read my books.
Gracias por tomarte el tiempo y también agradece que le dediques. Te lo traduzco después. I am going to be translating the session because it's recording at the end.
Okay, so yeah, if you need to translate what I'm saying again, totally fine. Just I'll try to keep it short. If it looks like I'm going too long and you need to cut me off, please feel free to say, hold on one sec, let me translate that part. Okay?
We're perfectly okay. Thank you.
Okay.
¿Fue todo? Well, it was all by her part. So in the next part, we have Mr. Linus Baker.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Hello.
I love it. It looks so good.
And I have a little sunflower.
Sunflower. Yes, you do. That is perfect. I 10 out of 10. Absolutely good. Absolutely good.
Well, thank you for coming. I'm so glad to meet you. My name is Nat, but for today, I'm Linus.
Yeah. All right, I can do that.
I really, really love your book, and I find your characters charming, lovely, and beautiful. Arthur, Linus, the children, they are so beautiful.
Thank you.
I love the hope and resilience they have, and the love and all the family trope that is so beautiful, so special. Thank you for writing The House in the Cerulean Sea. It's hopeful and bright of sunshine to the
Yes,
world.
I think so too. Thank you.
Um, I love uh, I love so much the hope and resilience you bring with your words and your characters. Thank you for that. And my question is, what is the most beautiful moment for you about writing this book and the characters?
The most beautiful moment for the writing this book and the characters. Thank you for that question. I really appreciate that, Linus. You are well dressed as usual. I will say the most beautiful moment for me when it comes to writing any book, I'll start there, is that when I get to see the story actually come together. Because when you first start writing those first 10, 20, 30 pages, you're kind of just hoping that it'll work out. You have an idea, you know where you want to go, but you don't know if you're going to get lost when you first start. So when you find that moment, when you actually find where you're going, when you're found, it just makes it a beautiful moment because then everything just clicks into place. For The House in the Cerulean Sea, I can tell you the moment it clicked into place for me. So and if you can, I can see all of you. That's great. How many of you have seen The Wizard of Oz? Raise your hand. The Wizard of Oz, yes, beautiful. Now, how many of you have actually gotten to see it on the big screen in a theater? Yes, okay, a couple of you. Okay, so I've seen The Wizard of Oz at home when I was a kid. Okay, it was wonderful. It was great. I was a boy and I was more interested in He-Man at that point in time, not for the reasons that people thought, but I was more interested in that. So, but when I was in my 20s, they were playing The Wizard of Oz at a movie theater where I live. And I lived about an hour north of the border with Mexico. I lived for many years in Tucson, Arizona. So when there was a theater there that played a bunch of old movies, and they brought The Wizard of Oz, and me and some friends went to go see it. And so, the moment it opens, and it's that very brown wash sepia tone color of Oz. And then the moment the brown of Kansas, and then there's the moment where she steps into Oz, where the color just explodes across the screen. And I can't tell you why exactly, but that was a very transformational moment for me. It was like I was seeing color again for the first time. That moment when all that color explodes and you see the road, the green, the pinks of the fairy, and it was beautiful. So I wanted to mimic that. So my homage to The Wizard of Oz is the beginning of this book, because you have Linus in the gray and the rain of this city. And then the first time he sees color is the ocean. And so that is when the novel kicked into gear for me. That's when I knew I had found the place that I was supposed to be. So when he gets to see color for the first time, that's how it felt for me seeing Dorothy on the big screen. And that was also my feelings about it, but it was also an homage to The Wizard of Oz. So that's when that novel kicked into gear. And it was really good for me too, because when you're with a character like Linus at the very beginning, he's a good person. He's well-intentioned, but he's still part of a machine. So when I get to be with him for those first few chapters, I know what's coming, but I have to get him there. So when I get to see him see color for the first time, it's a very proud moment for me, because not only did I create this character out of nothing, but I started him in a place where it always rained, and I found him a home where it's always sunny. Thank you for that question.
Thank you for answering.
It was very accurate, because this book is very visual, and we were discussing that prior to this meeting. I remember that we were talking a little bit about that part in particular. So I'm glad this theory became
Yeah. So, and quick thing for everybody who has not seen The Wizard of Oz on the big screen, do it. Trust me, if you get the opportunity, it will change the way you look at color. It just really will. It'll fire your imagination in ways you do not expect.
Thank you so much. In the meantime, I will very much like to raise a toast. Since it was a tea time, it's perfect timing for a drink.
Yeah.
And next in line, it's Liz. Or shall I call you Theodore?
Hi.
Hi again.
I'm in the total mood. Like,
You got it. Yeah.
yeah, I take it pretty serious. But
As you well and should. This is a very, very serious moment.
yeah. Well, first of all, nice. It's so nice to meet you. It's you. You've been on my mind for the last 2-3 years.
Oh.
So I have a couple of things to say.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, actually, are 3 things. So I'm trying to control my social anxiety and just.
You're totally
spill it out.
fine. I have social anxiety too, and you're doing marvelous. You're good.
Okay. With that, I will again thank you very much for being there. I'm gonna read.
You're
what
totally
I
fine.
wrote.
Go ahead. Absolutely.
Okay. First, thank you very much for being here with us. It means a lot, especially to me, because I just say that I'm kind of a veteran for your books. So
Yes, you're old school. Got you.
I started reading you in 2021 with Green Creek. Shattered my whole stomach. Like, you have no idea what you did to me, but
Oh.
it's okay. I'm still like 1 words, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I really admire your way of telling stories, as you just saying. The building of the characters, not just that the house in the Cerulean Sea, as well as Green Creek, the way you did to tell that character stories, the building, the feelings that they have, it's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful way to portray someone's soul. Like, so you have a special and unique form to send the message in them, in your stories. And but basically, as you just say, telling us to live and to love without fear, without any worry, just letting us be us. So thank you very much for that. And thank you very much for encourage us to fight for what matters. It's something like I always appreciate about you. Like, I really appreciate that authors don't do that for me, because I'm a very anxious and insecure person. And it's like I'm living all my days in this bubble. And when someone punches, it's just like, okay. And in that way, I feel very identified with Linus and with this part of the bubble. So I actually cry when I read that, because I am too, like.
Yeah, no,
So, yeah.
and let me just stop you there real quick. I'll let you
Yeah.
continue in a moment, but you should know that I was in a bubble too. I was Linus for a very long time, and I popped my bubble because I wanted to do what I do now, which is write full time more than anything in the world. So it's the scariest thing to pop your bubble and put yourself out there, because you don't know if you're going to succeed or fail. But the fact is, that doesn't always necessarily matter. What matters most is that you tried. And if you try, you know you can try again. And that's what I figured. So I'm sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
It's absolutely fine. Actually, well, I'm in a pretty great place right now. So
Good for
reading
you.
you do that in Linus, and in the whole moving part, it's actually very encouraged. I personally always send your books with this feeling of warmth and feeling that I'm part of a family, and with a lot of tears, actually. But your books are pretty quick to read, pretty enjoyable in that way, that it's been 11 pages and I am burst in tears. That happened to me when I read Wolf Song. That happened to me, I swear you. And I don't know in what page of The House in the Cerulean Sea I did that. I tell Jerry about it, I think, but I don't remember. But yeah, it's just like you always get me so quick in that, like. So yeah. And talking about family, and talking about this feeling of warmth and belonging that you made me feel with your words, is that I end up here, actually, with these people, with this book club, because my story, in long story short, is like I was in another book club, and it was nice for a while, but and it wasn't nice anymore, so I quit it. And I end up here because they were reading another book, and I meet Jerry and I meet everyone. And in the first talk we have, I feel so much this warm and this welcomeness and this feeling of belonging, and I feel my heart just burst about it. So my question is related to that, because what is it or how did you get inspired to write under the trope of found family? Like,
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I'm so happy you brought that up. Really, really happy, you should know, because here on the very last day of Pride, something that is very important for people to understand. It's very popular now to market things as found family. It is very popular. You see that on TikTok, you see that on Book Talk, you see that on or what, those are the same things, the Bookstagram, BookTube, whatever y'all call it. Found family, found family, found family, found family. And that's great. That's wonderful. But the tropification of found family needs to have people understand where it comes from. Found family comes from the queer community. Found family comes from us not getting the love and respect and parental or guardian safety that we should have. I did not have that. So what happens? You go out, and if you're lucky, you get to make your own family. My family right now consists of my brother, my sister, and everybody else that we consider our family is not related by blood, because we escaped from a pit of toxicity, a pit of bigotry, of homophobia, and we have made ourselves our own family, one that is filled with love and respect. And as long as you are being safe, you can love whoever you want. That is totally okay. And that is where found family comes from, because so many queer people don't get to have a safe family. They're born to people who should know better. So we go out into the world and we make our own family. So when you hear people talking about found family in books and in movies and stuff like that, just know it's a wonderful thing, yes, but it also comes from a very real place for that means so much to so many people. Thank you for the question.
thank you for answering.
Thank you so
And
much.
you know, it's
Beautiful.
true, like, I'm so sorry.
No, proceed. Was that all? Okay, sorry. So next in line, we have Lester.
Oh, Lester at lunch. Yes. Hi,
Yes.
Lester.
Hi, dear. How can I tell you? TJ?
TJ, yep, totally fine.
TJ? Yeah, TJ. I'm Lucy. I'm Lucy. You don't
Hello.
know if
You
you know
got
me.
it. You
Yeah.
got it. Yeah.
Just you don't see it because my costume I left it in my house. So yeah, well, that's the first thing, and the second thing I'm working.
Yes.
And the third is because the makeup is take me like 2 hours to get all my face and my hands red. So
Yeah, so that probably wouldn't look very good at your work, huh?
yeah.
Yeah.
So well, just so things. Well, I would like to ask you, if you don't know, I know you book House of the Serenity in an audiobook. So when I hear it, I don't know if you know, but the voice of the man who talks, when he makes Lucy, he speaks like, "Oh, I like the cats, and I like to see burning hell." Something.
Yeah.
It's so amazing the work
Yes.
that he made with your book. It's amazing. The part when we speak, well, sorry, when we hear Lucy talking, it's like I I feel the fear. I feel the demon inside him. So I don't know if you imagine it or any other character speaking like that. I would like to know.
So Daniel Henning, who does the audio, who is the narrator, is the best at what he does. He is very good. And that was the first time I'd ever worked with him, because that was my first book with my new publisher at the time. And I didn't know if I could say, I want to work with this narrator. So I didn't know what to do. So what happened was they came to me, the audio department came to me and said, I want you to listen to this guy. His name is Daniel. He's in theater. And I want you to hear what he does. And I don't like listening to my own audiobooks. I can't listen to my own books read to me because it does this thing to my brain where it feels like I'm going insane. So I can't listen to my own audiobooks. But I do love audiobooks. I do listen to them, but I just can't listen to my own. So when I listen to auditions, I can maybe last a minute before I'm like, no. So I picked a spot right in the middle and heard two voices, his Lucy voice and his Chauncey voice. I listened for 10 seconds and stopped and said, he's hired, because he was that good at what he did. So what I didn't know at the time was that, yes, Daniel has theater experience. He has 30 years of theater experience. He runs his own theater in Los Angeles. He is in the center of the queer community in Los Angeles. He's actually kind of famous. And I was like, oh, this guy. So when you get to hear him do those voices, when he does that Lucy voice, when he does all the other voices, I gave no feedback. That was all him off the top of his head to do those voices. And when I'm hearing him do that voice, and I got to hear a little bit later on, I pushed myself to listen to a little bit more. So I got to hear what he did later on. And his Lucy voice has stuck with me all this time because he was able to encapsulate a little boy and the spiders in his brain. He was able to encapsulate what it feels like to be that age and having your brain growing and not knowing how to react to anything. I don't know if you remember being a kid, but children are legitimately and literally insane. They are absolutely out of their minds. Why?
Still happen.
Yeah. Why? Because they don't have a filter yet. They don't have the filter that we get with age. Some of us get that filter of cynicism. Other people just realize you just can't say whatever intrusive thought goes in your head. But kids will say anything to you. And it is just a thought they had. My best friend's child, when she was like 5 years old, came to her when she was in bed and getting up in the morning, came to her little daughter, and whispered in her ear, I think I have more bones than I had yesterday. Could you imagine a little child whispering to you that first thing in the morning? I would be like, well, it's time for adoption. So goodbye. So
bye.
Yeah, right. So he's able to encapsulate what I think is a very interesting thing is the fact that regardless of what anybody else thinks that Lucy is still a child first and foremost. He's just a child that arguably has a monster inside of him. And when he lets that monster out, it's not to hurt anybody. It's to play.
You think in his voice like your inner child voice, or you think about when you write the book about
how I felt as a kid. And it's essentially what we adults think now as intrusive thoughts that go into our head that we know we probably shouldn't say out loud. Like Lucy probably should not threaten as much murder as he does, but he's a child and he happens to be the Antichrist. So that is his way, I think, of dealing with the spiders. He threatens, but do you actually think he would follow through with most of what he threatens? No, I don't think so. He's all talk because he knows what he is. So he's bluffing, but I think that bluffing would stop if anybody came for his family. And that's what Lucy is to me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, dear TJ. Pump your fist.
Bam. Yes, absolutely.
Correct.
Enjoy the rest of your lunch.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. See you the
Thank
next one,
you.
please.
Yeah. So, who's the next one? It's a dear friend of mine, and who happens to be my teacher, Cristobal.
Hello.
I didn't know if I had to introduce myself as I used to teach Jerry, but no, that's another thing. We're friends here now. We're friends. Thank you, Mr. TJ. Thank you for being here, for being in the book club. I read the Under the Whispering Door out of recommendation of Jerry. Actually, I was in the library and I was like, oh, I really need to read something fresh, something like heartwarming. And he said, oh, you should totally follow through TJ's work. And they didn't have at the moment the Cerebral and Seed. It was out of stock, so I bought this one, and I was surprised. I didn't know your work, but now I want to know more about it. So thank you very much for it. My question would be on the construction of the main character, Wallace. It's a trip. It's very difficult to like.
Yes.
Yes, it's noticeable it's made like that, but after hearing all this, everyone cheering you up on your characters and being so heartwarming, how did you came up with the total opposite? A Wallace that I hated until the very end of the book, and still I don't know if I like the ending. You know,
and that is okay. Absolutely okay.
Yeah, it's like I don't think Hugo deserves that, but okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just like Hugo is precisely that, like the found family. Hugo is that person that is wise, also struggling with his stuff, and now he's struggling with Wallace.
Yes.
So it's like, oh my gosh. So my question is on Wallace. How you came to building him, and how are your feelings towards him? I don't know. What can you tell me?
Yeah. So Wallace is intentionally meant to piss you off. He's intentionally not supposed to be likable, because if I wrote a character who was likable at the beginning, you're not going to appreciate the journey that he has to go on to at least attempt to become a better person. This story was based upon Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, Ebenezer Scrooge. Here's the thing. I read that and I wondered, okay, let's see what this is about. You read the story and he gets visited by the three ghosts, and then he becomes a better person at the end. He realizes that all of his wrongs, they show him the error of his ways. And at the very end, we all know that the doors open, or to the windows open, and he yells down, well, I'm a better person. Yeah. Okay. But you never actually saw any of the work going into becoming a better person. And I wondered what would happen if a person like Scrooge, instead of being visited by ghosts, what happened if a person like him died and was the ghost surrounded by living people? So it was an inversion, a subversion of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. But what I wanted to do with that was I wanted to show that a person like Wallace, who's an absolute jerk, has to get brought low. And I'm not talking about death. I'm talking about May. May, his Reaper, when she first meets him, she calls him out on many different things. She essentially slaps him around. And here's the thing about her. She's not going to take any crap from him. And he's been a manager his whole life. So he suddenly realized that the world is not his. So what does he do? Does he get kind? No, he latches on to May. She takes him back to the house. They learn all of these things. It's only then that Wallace, after meeting Hugo and Nelson and Apollo, that he realizes that, oh shit, this is real. I'm actually dead. And even then, he's so reticent to learn about the people he's with than the people he's learning about, or the people that are trying to help him. He's even actively fighting against them. But I will tell you, I think the moment that it changes for me, that moment is when he meets Cameron, the husk, for the first time, when he escapes and he realizes that maybe there's something worse than death. And so, whether it be out of conscious decision or fear of the unknown, Wallace starts to listen. He still inserts mouth, opens mouth, inserts foot quite often, but he learns that he actually has a heart, even though he's dead. He actually tries to help instead of hurt, instead of harm. And that was the big full circle moment then when he met with Cameron and made the decision that he did. Now, the ending, I'm going to tell you this, and I'm not going to get into so many details on this because it's not necessary. But if you read the beginning of the book, you know the book is dedicated to Eric. Eric was my partner who passed away before I wrote Under the Whispering Door. I wrote the ending because it was the ending I never got to have. So that is why I did that. And if you want to know why it says on there, I hope you woke up in a strange place, because Eric Arvin was a novelist who wrote a book called Woke Up in a Strange Place that was about his version of the afterlife. He wrote that before he passed away. And it is one of the best, funniest, sexiest books that I adored him as a writer. And so that ending was there because he, in a way, was Hugo, and in a way, I was Wallace. I was a very prickly person until I met him and realized I didn't need to be that way. So he changed me, and I just wanted to give them the ending that I didn't get. So that's why I wrote the way I did.
Oh my God, that's very, very nice to know. Thank you for sharing so much. And yeah, thank you for being here. And I'll follow all your books.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And if y'all can, if it's available in your area, I don't know who has the rights at this point, but if you can get a copy of Woke Up in a Strange Place, at least an ebook, you should read it. It's very good.
Okay. Thank you.
It was very beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, because it was deeply personal. And I personally knew about it prior to this, but
yeah, it's always, when you're talking about Under the Whispering Door, there's no way to talk around it, but it's also important to be open about that kind of stuff, because death and grief are the reason that I wrote Under the Whispering Door, because it has such a stigma talking about it. We don't like, of course we don't like talking about it. We don't like talking about things that'll take us away from everything that we know. But at the same time, we have to talk about it because it affects every single person in this world. It's just how I think about it, these things now.
thank you. So we go now with my dear friend in the States, Elizabeth Albo.
Hi there. Yeah, I was actually Jerry's friend in Mexico, but I moved to the States like 5 years ago. So
You
now
still are my friend.
now I'm on this side of the waters. Yeah. So hi, I'm Elizabeth. Very exciting to talk to you. It's something that I've been looking forward this whole month, and something that I've been talking with Jerry as well. So I feel like this is the first time that I feel kind of like starstruck. So just bear with me. Bear with me.
Trust me, I am not that cool, so you are totally fine.
But yeah, well, first of all, thank you for being here. And of course, I want to start thanking you for putting so many important topics in one book. I feel like you did such an amazing job putting like very, I must say, not very like, yeah, well, harsh topics, but sometimes like hard to talk about, but like in a very beautiful, charming way. And it was like very well like presented. It wasn't like, oh, this and this, and then we have to focus on this. It was just like you get a little piece of it, like when you go through the book, and at the end you have like this collection that is just like I don't know. Then it just feels like you get the message, but at the same time, you feel like you feel also understood in some type of way.
Mhm.
So this is my first book from you, so I'm very excited to keep reading the rest of your work. And so yeah, thank you for that. And well, now I will jump into my questions. My first question is actually about Sal.
Mhm.
um, when I read the poem, I Am But Paper, um, I'll be honest, when I started, I was like, okay, where are we going? Okay, it's gonna be this kind of poems where it's just kind of weird, but it's supposed to make sense. But I keep reading, I was like, dang, I feel like I think I'm a piece of paper as well. Um, so my question is where that poem came from, what inspired that poem? Because you also presented the poem kind of like at the end of the book, and you put it like beautifully, and actually it made me cry the three like those two times. It made me cry. I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so many sense. And now it's like I have it on my phone and I'm like, I am but paper, you know. So yeah, that's my question. What inspired this poem?
So, you know, when you have, okay, let me put it from my perspective. Because art is art, correct? I think we can all agree it doesn't matter what medium it is, art is art. For me, one of the scariest things in the world is a blank Word document page with the cursor blinking at the top, because I have to begin. I have to start somewhere. But here's the thing about that paper. I can fill it in with whatever I want. I can make it look however I want. And that's the great thing about every single person in this world. We are all essentially pieces of paper, and we can fill ourselves in however we want to. And I think we often forget that because we are either trying to conform to society or trying to meet expectations placed upon us by parental figures or other figures in our family or community. And we're sometimes forgetting to color ourselves in. We're sometimes forgetting to actually put our marks on the paper because all we're doing is getting shaded over by everybody else. And it makes me angry to think that we let ourselves become facsimiles, that we let ourselves become basically Xeroxes of what other people want us to be. So with Sal's poem, I wanted to write something that felt like that it could speak to everybody, because we are all pieces of paper. We are all blank pieces of paper. Maybe we're blank canvases. Maybe we're a blank Word document. Maybe we're blank whatever in your life that inspires your creativity, or even not even that, just something for your everyday life. You are a blank piece of paper, and it is up to you how you fill it in. Sal chose to fill it in with his voice because he didn't speak very often, because he's still shy, he's still unsure, he doesn't know what to think about Linus. So instead of using his voice, he used the power of his words and put them on paper and let them be his voice. That poem to me is one of, if not the most powerful scenes in the book, because that is a moment where I felt like I understood Sal 100%, because Sal was me. I put my words on paper to help explain things to myself and to the world.
Yeah, I do feel like that was very powerful, and I think the more you read, it actually makes sense because I mean, Sal went through a hard time in the past, and the fact that he kind of had in his mind this perspective of himself and who he was, right? And you can see that as well with like dichotomy and like thinking about who Lucy is, right? When
Mhm.
necessarily is not what it is. And I do feel like it's the same with Mr. Baker. I mean, he doesn't have to stay in the same way he was. And that's why like I wanted to be Mr. Baker, but like in the more chill, like at the
Island
end,
life, yes.
transformation type of thing. Um, so I thought it was beautiful. And now personally, for me, growing up, you always have people telling you like you're this and you're that, but at
Mhm.
the end it's like you have your own piece of paper and you have the power to write on it and
Mhm.
write who you want to be, right? And it's also with the queer community as well. You know, society tells you to be in a certain way, but not really, right?
Right. Right. It's so funny to me that especially in the US right now, which I'm sure you're very well familiar, that the queer community is under extraordinary attack at the moment, especially people of color in the queer community and trans people within the queer community are under extraordinary attack at the moment. And it is frightening that it could come to this. But here's the thing. What these old white people in power don't understand, and they will never understand, is that one day, and forgive me for being a little crass, but one day and one day soon, they're going to die. And who's going to be left? It's going to be all these pissed off young people who have seen the way they've run the world and seen where it's gotten us. And if I can leave you guys with anything, it would be this: is I have spent the last 3 years traveling to a lot of schools and talking with a lot of young people. And I can tell you one thing: they are very, very angry. And when you piss off the entire next generation, you're going to lose at everything that you do. So as much as it sucks that we're going through all this anti-queer crap at the moment, I don't worry about the future, because as much as it sucks to put it on their shoulders, the children, the young people, you guys are going to save us. You're going to save us and make the world as it should be. When there should, and one last thing too, there should be an entire, instead of just me and my generation talking to you guys about this stuff, there should also be an entire generation of queer men above me talking about this. But unfortunately, they were killed off by the AIDS crisis. And what happened during the AIDS crisis? American politics ignored it and let it get worse until it killed off so many people. So think about that when when we think about the course of our future and how these arguments repeat over and over and over again. We got this chance to be the change, and I think you guys are going to be the change. And I know that I'm going to be right there with you, because I'm so sick and tired of old white dudes, man. I am so sick and
Me
tired.
too.
Oh my God. In this country, a group of old white men now can tell women what to do with their bodies. Why is that a thing? Why? No, trust me, their time is coming and they know it, but you know what? Nobody's going to miss them when they're gone.
Yeah, thank you for that. Now jumping into my next question. I don't know how much time we have, but I think it's a little bit personal. And I think it goes along with that. That I want to know about, like, how's your mental health right now? And I asked this question because I do believe that as a writer, and having maybe the pressure to write something or get something out or publishing something, also because it's part of your job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, how that world works. So I do believe that as a writer, you put yourself out there and you have no choice than leaving that door open for criticism. It could be good criticism, it could be
Or it could be
very
death threats that I get, and
yeah.
yeah, all that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, no, that's totally fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and also for people that, as you mentioned, like, goes through that book and destroy the beauty of it. So I just want to know, like, how you've been handling that, or what's something that has been taking you out of those places where you're feeling
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
dang.
Oh yeah. So first and foremost, I am in therapy. I recommend therapy to everybody. Everybody should go to therapy. Everybody should be in therapy. I am also on a couple of antidepressants. Everybody who needs those should have access to that medicine. I so when I have begun access to books in my country. I am a well-known speaker on the subject of the right and access to books in my country, because a lot of people are trying to take away those rights.
Mhm.
And what does that mean? It means I've put a target on myself, a target on my back. And what I found and what's so weird is I don't look at direct messages on any social media. I only have Instagram now, but I used to get death threats or being told to kill myself or all manner of horrific things that don't need to be repeated here. And let me tell you this, 75% of those death threats and all that crap came from the right-wing zealots, the people who are religious and trying to say that queer people are all pedophiles and blah, 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 blah. The other 25% came from reader accounts. And those reader accounts use the same type of language as the right-wing accounts, being told to kill myself and stuff like that. So I always find that fascinating that there's that tiny little overlap there with stuff like that. So what do? I turn it all off. I don't read that stuff anymore. I have filters on my email that many keywords are put in, and if those keywords are, you know, like threats or anything along those lines, automatically get deleted. My social media now, I am in a pilot program with Instagram that gives me significant control over who can or cannot comment, tag, like, or even look at my Instagram profile. And it's all but erased, all of that. Does it stop? Absolutely not. But you know what? I don't go looking for that stuff, because at the end of the day, I like me more than those people hate me. And that's more important.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. And it's very funny because like I actually had therapy this morning. So
Yay, good for you.
yeah, we're in the work. We are in the work. But thank you for that. And I just, yeah, as a community of readers, I just want to let you know that, you know, those who get the message will get it.
Yeah.
We appreciate
I absolutely understand. There's always going to be people who, no matter what you do, there's always going to be people who try to bring you down. And at the end of the day, that's on them, not on me.
Yes, so thank you for that. And my last question, it's just very simple now that it just came to this weird questions, I guess. What's your favorite book in the sense of like that make you feel like the House in the Cerulean Sea for us? What was that book?
Yeah, Jerry mentioned this at the top of the show. The author, her name is Diana Wynne Jones. She wrote the book Howl's Moving Castle. Howl's Moving Castle, you guys might have seen the Studio Ghibli animated version. I will tell you this, and pardon my language, but if you've seen the animated version, you have that type of Howl. In the book, Howl is a fuckboy. So it is a delightful, warm and cozy, wonderful book that I recommend without reservation. It turned into a series, and the subsequent books, I think there's like two or three. They're good, but nothing compares to that first book. That first book is what I aspired to be like when I was writing The House in the Cerulean Sea. And also anything by Terry Pratchett. Anything by Terry Pratchett is the best. But start with Howl's Moving Castle, and trust me, you will feel the way you feel when you read The House in the Cerulean Sea.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I know that we are very close to end actually, but Chauncey here will very much like to know if there will be a few minutes for my very dear friend and almost
go ahead.
Talia.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Mayra, it's your turn.
Thank you so much, Jerry. ¿Sí me escucha?
It's actually Chauncey.
Chauncey. I'm so sorry. Chauncey. Okay, well. First of all, my real name is Mayra, but today I am Talia, and I have a shovel right here.
I love it. That looks so good.
And I want to tell you that, well, first I wrote what I want to tell you, and so that my nerves do not betray me.
Okay, go ahead.
And I decide to characterize myself as Talia because I think she represents the strength that I sometimes have to face problems. But at the same time, I identified with that little girl who cried in Linus' arms when he came home. And I cry with Talia all the time because I think that was a beautiful scene. So thank you so much for this beautiful character. And I want you to know that it's been a long time since I read something that warmed my heart like The House in the Cerulean Sea did. So thank you so much for that. And my question is, will there be a movie? And if so, have you thought
Animated, please.
have you thought about which actors your characters will be?
I cannot. Okay, so let me put it this way. I will say what I'm required to say by my publisher. I cannot confirm nor deny if there's any adaptation of The House in the Cerulean Sea or any of my other books currently in progress. If you would like to know more, please follow my social media accounts. That's where I will be posting the latest and most up-to-date information about any and upcoming releases or announcements. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Bye-bye now.
Oh my God.
Too much to progress.
But I will say that I have already in my head, oh, sorry, my dog. I have already cast 2 actors in my head who I want to play Linus and Arthur. Should I tell you who they are? So
One Andrew Garfield.
if you know, one is a Hispanic actor. His name is Harvey Guillen. He is in What We Do in the Shadows. He is a very funny queer plus-sized man. He would be Linus. And then my absolute choice for Arthur would be the tall drink of water by the name of Lee Pace, who is in the movie. He's in the Hobbit movies. He's in, he's in a bunch of things. He's in Marvel movies. You would know him. He is 6'4", and he is also a queer man. And they would be my perfect Arthur and Linus. But I cannot confirm nor deny if any of that is even real. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, dear TJ. To finish with this session, I will very much like to ask something because I know that it's not very related to Chauncey, which was one of my favorite kids in the story. But, you know, many scenes were very powerful. And one of them was this moment when Lucy was having a nightmare. And, you know, there was Arthur and Linus Baker trying to wake him up. And there was a lot of music playing at the same time. I could identify Beyond the Sea and American Pie, I think. But I would very much like to know what song or songs, it could be more than one, you think that can save you in the dark times, in a dark moment?
Ooh, that is a very deeply personal question, Jerry. Oh my goodness. Oh, that is something that would change it because I listen to most all kinds of music. I mean, this is going to sound like such a white person thing to say. When I lived in Tucson, I got super into mariachi because you would go to all the street festivals and everything like that, and they would have the absolutely tremendous mariachi bands, and I lived on that music for like a year just because I could. So I listened to all types of music, everything in any way, shape, or form. But if I absolutely had to pick one song, oh Jesus. Give me 1 second because I'm cycling through a couple in my head and I'm going to select one in 3, 2, 1. Okay. There is a song that is featured prominently in my Green Creek series, which is Dinah Shore's I'll Walk Alone. And it is my absolute one of, if not my absolute favorite songs of all time. And I have it on record. And if this is me being an old man, but if you can get music to listen to on a record player with records because it sounds different and it's wonderful. It's like Lucy says, it's dead people music, because when you listen to music now, like we all do when we stream, I stream music, but it's produced within an inch of its life. It is the most perfect sounding song it'll ever be. But when you listen to it on records, you get to hear all the imperfections of the record in with it, and it sounds like Dead People music. I love records, but Dinah Shore's I'll Walk Alone is that song for me because I love that song to pieces. And if you have not read Green Creek, you should, because that song is featured in essence, if not literally, in all 4 books.
If we do, you should be with us to discuss that because I love that.
I will pay for all of your therapy. No, I won't. That's a lie. I'm not going to pay because those books will hurt your feelings. The first book is getting re-released on Tuesday here in America in hardcover, and all these people who are like, oh, he wrote The House in the Cerulean Sea. Let's see what he does with werewolves. I'm about to punch your soul. It's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
Thanks. And I was curious to ask because I mentioned to my friends in the book club that that moment reminded me of that powerful scene in Stranger Things season 4, where Max was running away from Vecna while listening to Running Up That Hill. And, it was amazing. And thank you so much for answering and also for being here. It was very nice to have you here. Thank you so much for dedicating some time to this bunch of international readers we are.
You guys are a great bunch of international readers, and it's been my pleasure talking to all of you. Thank you for dressing up. Thank you for your wonderful questions and sharing parts of yourself with me. This is why I do what I do. So I'm going to tell you guys a quick story, then I'm going to immediately sign off so I can't see your reactions, okay? You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So when The House in the Cerulean Sea came out, it was at the beginning of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
A lot of what happened in the pandemic was me doing stuff like this, virtual books, book talks with book clubs, and sometimes they were with book clubs like yourself with people from all over the world in there. One time I got a request from a group of people in a church. This church happened to be a Southern Baptist church, which in the United States is one of the most fire and brimstone, everybody's going to hell kind of church. They wanted me to come speak to their book club at about The House in the Cerulean Sea. And since I figured, I don't know what the hell they're going to have to talk about with this book, I said, why the fuck not? Let's see what happens. Let me go there and just see what happens. And guess when I opened the Zoom screen, there was row after row of white women in their 70s and 80s. And they were all very nice, except for one. So through this whole time I spoke to them for about an hour, one woman that was in the top right corner did not speak at all, but glared at me the entire time. I finished up with the book club, ended it, and thought that was the end of it. The next day, I woke up to an email. Guess who it was from? It was from that one woman. She was very, very upset with me. Why was she upset with me? Because I had written about the Antichrist. Didn't I know who the Antichrist was? Didn't I know what the Bible said about the Antichrist? Didn't I know that he was going to bring about the end of days and everybody's destruction? And why would I make him into a good character? And though she did admittedly say that later on she did come to enjoy the character of Lucy, she just wished that I'd gone in a completely different direction and avoided that whole thing. Then she finished her email with the best sign-off of any email I've ever received, so much so that I still use this sign-off in emails to my friends. So after being so mean to me in this email about Lucy, about taking me to task for doing something bad and promoting Satanism, she ended the email by saying the following words: "But I did not mind the homosexuals." Bye.
I think that was all.
Okay.
Nos la aplicó muy bien y bonito.
Verdaderamente. Esas son salidas, amigos. Tomen nota.
No es solamente cómo empiezas una reunión, sino cómo la terminas.
¿Cuándo lo terminas? Sí, sí, sí.
Wow.
Aplicó la de drop the mic.
Ahora no puedo dejar de pensar en lo que dijo,
Es que
¿saben?
yo me imaginé tipo la monja ahí en el rincón, así como de quieta la señora viéndolo mal, y fue
Sí,
como,
yo creo que fue una monja.
dude.
Bueno, les agradezco mucho por haberse unido. Gracias por acompañarnos, gracias por hacer el esfuerzo y por hacernos caso, sobre todo. Qué bonita recomendación, pero más bonito cuando se lee en conjunto y con buenos amigos y buenas amigas.
Gracias a ti, Jerry, por
Gracias a
poner todo
ti.
esto junto.